Well, hello everyone. Here, show you right here is like for a goodies prize, and basically that you see right here, I talk about it's like it is right here is supposed to be like what you call for goodies, and then known about right here is that with like an example right here of it's like call it is to word it have right here's an example right here of a pinata, and with this pinata right here, as you see right here is would be example right here of like anything about if we want to call it like anything about prizes, or if it's like for goodies or something like that. If anything that's filled with candy, or maybe anything really any other type of goodies, especially. But you have right here some examples right here of classmates. So this story right here using Photoshop would take place from back in 1990, and this right here would be example right here of me right here. I drew myself if I were to be right here, and if anybody were wanted to word it, yeah, that you do so, because right now I had that what you call that okay, yeah, I'll see what I can do, look on my face or anything like that, and I know it. If anybody that whenever if they were be shy during that time too, that while they were what you call it in the classroom and thinking is toward a teacher or whoever that asked you to step forward and see what they were doing like any activity inside the classroom especially. I can remember this time, but I cannot remember if it was around Halloween or if it was maybe like an Easter activity. But basically, that you see right here is this right here would be an example right here of a pinata right here, and in that right here that would be an example right here of yeah, right there's the classroom right here is like the candies. So if the pinata would have been filled with like any type of goodies, just like any type of candies or some sort. But you see right here is an example right here of the pinata right here, and this right here with me with the little bat right here. This right here would be an example right here of a bat, and so they that a few students in the classroom that if I can remember right, it was quite a bit long ago. I kept thinking about what year it was and maybe what it was all about necessarily, but still that this was right here was an example right here of me right here. Like you have right here is example right here. You got the me along to say with the teacher right here, and then the teacher would say is like to take the baseball bat, Mr. Matthew, and see what you do. You try to get the pinata. So I guess the purpose about the game would be is toward it to hit the pinata hard enough to where it would come off the string, or maybe until the goodies start falling out. Now I know like with anybody, if you're going to be in the first grade or some sort, if you're going to be in the first grade or maybe the second grade or the third grade, if they're going to be doing any kind of activity toward it, that knowing about any prizes, any prizes that if you're going to be playing a game like maybe a hot potato, or maybe duck duck goose, or any of those other games, maybe from the first and second grade, from elementary years as well as for preschool year, and the preschool years, but this right here is I would sketch right here. This was me right here. If I were to be what you call taking up, it's like being one of the students, or like being the kids in the classroom that would take the bat, and then I would hit the pinata a number of times, and if I can remember right, try to remember the basic rules about the game of pinatas is to where that after about maybe 13 times after you hit it, then you had to go to the next person in line or something like that, or maybe until the bat slips out of your hand or something like that. But really, I don't really know all the details about is like to where that with like for knowing about to where that anything related to the basic rules about the game especially. But you have right here is I keep also thinking about right here is to where that go ahead and try to spell this correctly right here. If like right, other than that, it's going to be like the goodies or something like that. But anyway, but you have right here that I go ahead and put right there, for goodies. But anyway, you got right there is like for like goodies. So, but and for knowing about for like any type of goodies that the goodies prize. But the basic rule about this type of game right here, if I can remember right, is to where that the person with the batter that would have about maybe, I don't know, about 10 tries until they go to the next person, or until the bat slips out of their hand or something like that. But if I can remember right there in that time, if anybody were like, weren't to about what grade were you in, and I would probably say, I was, I keep thinking it was the first grade, something like that. I'm like, some stuff that maybe I just, I can't remember everything offhand, but from what all that was going on during that time. But I can remember my parents were there, and as well as, the grandparent was there too. And I can remember that they were like, "Oh, you take it easy, man." but if I can remember, it was an activity that they were doing in the classroom. I don't really know if it was an after-school activity, or if it was just something to where something that was going on there at the school, to where the parents and the teachers, the parents were invited to participate in an activity that was going on there at the school. So you have right here these sketches right here of like the audio of the people that were watching as during the gameplay of the kids. If they would be what you call playing an activity where, like, say for the candy pinata, who gets the prize or something like that. So that's just a thing that this right here would be example right here of me right here. And if anybody will warrant toward it, knowing about what exactly would happen if I was what you call one of the persons who hit the pinata hard enough to where it came out the string, and then it was filled with prizes. And like with anybody, if they're going to be warned toward it, that if you were like you hit the pinata hard enough to where the prizes, that there's prizes and goodies on the inside, and you're like wanting to where, oh yeah. So that's whenever kids that really start getting carried away, and then that a few kids are going to start to running over. It's like run over from one corner of the classroom to the other just to be able to pick up the prize, you pick up the candy. So during that time, which I keep thinking it was like a Halloween type event or something like that. Like if most of us can remember from the schools from the first grade to through the fourth and fifth grade, is that there would be like an activity game. Is that you fill up make a pinata. It would be made like a paper. If it was like a paper mache or any type of a make a pinata right there. And I don't. I use right here like kind of like a rabbit, and I know that this looks like maybe like a goat, type make pinata right here, or maybe like a little deer, make pinata, but it'll be like a certain type of animal that will be shaped as like for a pinata. It will be filled with all kinds of goodies. So I know a lot of times that nowadays that sometimes the kids would probably think about is toward that they would maybe want some other type of candy, inside of their what you call their Halloween baggies. That if it's going to be like Halloween or any type of treats necessarily, one of those treats would be like if anybody say the Jolly Ranchers, and they can the Milky Way bars or anything like that, Snickers bars or any type of candy like that. And sometimes like maybe the packaged brownies, or maybe if it was anything about oh, let's see here, the variety of candies that that you're like wanting toward it. Yeah, that the different events that they're going on at the school especially. And if I can remember right, that there was one activity game that it was not really about like a pinata. If I can remember right, from the fifth grade, that they had other things. Even of course, even at the church, of course, that they would have stuff, but still that where you would dress up, and then they would do other sorts of activities. But still, that with this. From this time right here, from what I can remember, it was something that was going on at their school, and I kept thinking about if it was a Halloween event or something like that. But really, that I would take the bat, and then I would hit the pinata a number of times, if I can remember right. I did not hit it hard enough to where it came out the string, but still that if I can remember right, that I hit it hard enough to where it came pretty close to where it was the goodies were falling out or something. But I know that like that like with any kids that like want to any source of attention that you may want, especially in the classroom, especially, and we may be dreaming about any source of attention that we may want to get, especially this right here would be me right here, the baseball bat, and thinking about is to where that allow it to where that they're going to hand you the bat, and then And I don't know, whenever they say they hand you the bat and think about, well, have fun, but still, that sometimes though it's like have fun. I guess mainly don't really mean that there's no rules at all, but still that with any type of prizes that you do win, especially. But you have right here, it's like for goodies prize for 1990. So this right here is like if I were to be what you call it in the first grade, and I know I drew myself just a little bit big, just so we can see this right here, like this right here with my Photoshop work right here. And if anybody wanted to, are you gonna add any color to it? And I'm like, well, I can maybe add just a little bit right here. But this was right here was the teacher, so the teacher were to hand me the bat right here, and like this little soft bat, hard enough to where I can hit the pinata, and if anybody warns toward it, yeah, that have right here is the teacher right here, and with the teacher that would be guiding me to where, okay, Matthew, here's the baseball bat, and like go ahead and try to see what you can do about opening up the pinata of goodies. And so that's just the thing, though, is that, and I know, like with anybody, that you may have heard that before, like for like maybe gymnastics or a cheerleading team about for and I know that I did not do a sketch on that as toward that whenever I was in gymnasium. There is a moment toward I might save that maybe for my screencast library video, or if I want to go ahead and put it up on YouTube also. But you have talking about for an activity that I was doing in a gymnasium, to where that other students were cheering for me just for doing a number of pull-ups. I think they were pull-ups or something like that. If you do a number of them, and then you would be able to score that a point. I think if you do a number of them in a row or so without getting tired, then that you would be you would be honored for something, something like that. But anyway, but this right here would be example right here, like say of me right here, and if anybody were warned toward it, yeah, that they would allow it to, you would take the baseball bat right here, you would take the bat right here, and then you would swing the pinata, a couple of times. And this right here, I can remember that it was like, if I can remember right, it was from the first grade, something like that. So if anybody warns us toward about what grade was that, I'm like, I keep thinking it was the first grade. So there was other kids there in the classroom that were what you call, that would participate in the activity. That I would say at least maybe 15 kids. I didn't draw the whole full audience, but this right here will be an example right here of a pinata. So this pinata right here that yeah, I kept thinking about, really, about what do you think it would be made of, but still that it would be a pinata right here that would be filled with all kinds of goodies. But really, the basic rules about the pinata game is that if you hit it enough times, I'm like, for knowing about who's like each person who volunteered to try to hit the pinata until a certain amount of goodies that came out. And if I wanted to, yeah, if it was filled with any kind of goodies, and thinking necessarily to, oh yeah, well, if there was like maybe the lollipop or the Jolly Rancher or any type of a candy, certain candies that would come out of the pinata also. But anybody say, yeah, the Tootsie Roll, the Tootsie Roll, and as well as maybe the Snickers or the Milky Way or the Sweet Tarts, or if it's maybe the what you call the other sorts of candies, I'm sure that we are pretty much familiar with. But inside the pinata, and I know, like with anybody, if you're going to be winning a prize, that the kids would probably say that they get carried away knowing about, yeah, that and that you win at something that from a pinata. It's like by the time you actually get in, and I know that like with anybody that I'll go ahead and color in right here a little bit of the bat right here too. If anybody wanted to, yeah, if you're going to be holding the bat right here, and I'll go ahead and change this right here to change the size right here. But you have right here is the bat right here. So they would hand me the bat, and if anybody like wanted to, you don't really necessarily have to be the man in the house or the woman in the house. I guess just like shows like, yeah, for whoever's that's the strongest to go ahead and hit the pinata hard enough to where there would be what you call goodies that would come out. and then people would want to, they would fall to the ground, fall to the floor, and then kids would want to pick up the goodies, get the goodies, but still that I know that this kind of reminds me of those to where, like, with most of the time that you people were like wanting to, you walk into the classroom and sometimes that they want to ask, okay, who's the bravest, or who's the strongest, or what you call that, who's the tallest, or who's the oldest, or anything like that. So I'm sure that most of us, from kindergarten to fifth grade, that they would ask you for a volunteer, and then maybe there would be a student that might be picked, to volunteer, and they may be looking for what you call maybe who's the brightest and who's the smartest, or who's the tallest or who's the strongest or anything like that. But this seems right here is to where like kind of like a dream right here, to where if anybody like wanted to where you would have a dream about, is to where you were picked to what you cause to do like a presentation. I know about right here is to where that who do you think that if you want to go ahead and step forward and show people about how this works or how that works necessarily. And you have right here as an example right here of a rug. So I'm sure most classrooms would have like any type of placemat or any type of a rug for the kids, that they would sit down during story time or so. But still, for any type of school, so you have right here as a student right here, the kids right here, that there will be kids watching me if I were to be what you call have a baseball bat, have a bat right here to where I would try to hit the pinata a number of times. And if anybody like wanted to, or you'd be dreaming about that, I'm like hitting the pinata a number of times, but still that after about 13 times, and think about as it work by as you go to the next player, or until the baseball bat comes out of the person's hand, and to where, okay, well, that's enough, time to go to the next player. Or if it's about as to where that you hit it enough to where that if whenever you get tired, and I don't know, I'm like if the rules go by as to where that you hit it a number of times, as to where that you've that you got tired of hitting it, and then you go to the next player. But still that if I can remember right, that I think one time that I hit it hard enough to where it was coming out, it was I was able to hit it open a little bit until some candies were coming out of the pinata. But still, that you're like wondering to if you were to knock it off the string, and then thinking about, that there would be like some kids that would want to what you call pick it up, and you're like wondering, hey, that and like you hit the pinata hard enough to where you would want to pick it up, and like say that, well, if you're gonna knock the whole pinata down from the from the string or whatever, if it was mounted up on the ceiling, and knock it down from the string, and think about it, that you would pick up the pinata and not want to share it with anybody else. So I don't know if anybody were wondering toward it, like whenever you're a kid and thinking that you would say that wait a minute, I thought this was mine. Well, it's not all yours either. I can well, you need to learn how to share. But anyway, so I'm sure anybody that may wonder toward it, that you've had those stories from back whenever you were a kid, is toward it, whenever you win something and think is toward it somebody else that wants to see it or wants to look at it, and thinking that that whenever people ask you to share, I guess is that basically means toward it, they allow the other people to see it and hold it. It's like they want to hang on to it for a little bit or something like that. So that's just a thing though, is to where whenever you win a prize, or if you're like what you call it, known for nominated for honor or something like that, any type of medals or anything like that, and you're going to have people that are going to more likely want to look at it. And then, if anybody that may warrants to where any source of higher education, especially, is to where anything that you may earn or anything that you may win, that thinking about is to where are you going to be mainly looking forward to where people are going to be the one to look at for what it is, compared to what you call is like, nobody cares. That's not the best of their attention or something like that. But anyway, but that's the way I think about it, is that knowing about, you have right here's the teacher right here. The teacher were to be, cause like if the teacher were to be there, and she would likely say is that go ahead and use right here's the red right here. Have the teacher right here. And if the teacher were to say something like, "Okay, here you go, Matthew. Like, go ahead and have fun with it's like, yeah, there's a bet and try to see what you can do about like hitting the pinata and try to get the pinata open." So I know that I don't know if it was true or if it was just a dream, but still that with the way I was hitting the pinata, which I think that I don't know if I knocked it off the string, but still that I hit it hard enough to where that I opened it up just a little bit. Hit the pinata, hit the pinata open a little bit until that there was some goodies that came out. But then people like wanting to, whenever you win a prize, that you're like wanting to, you want to go in and try to impress other kids there, especially. So and I don't know. How many of us that we want to try to impress other people who are there, and you're like wearing to her that if it was anything about maybe a contest or any type of a event going on there at the school, maybe a game of bingo or maybe charades or any game like that, and you're like wearing to her that people ask, it's like to where that their kids is to where that they ask whoever that wants to volunteer, whoever that's the strongest or so, and you're like Warren Tour that yeah, that anything you want to try to impress a lot of the kids there and maybe a lot of the other parents and think about is to where that really they may ask is to where oh my like how did you do that, young man, how did you do that. So I know that sometimes though that if you're going to be going up there at the schools or anywhere, and then being maybe at a special location, like maybe I don't know if anybody say that, yeah, like Burger King or Chuck E. Cheese's. Burger King or Chuck E. Cheese's is to where it goes somewhere, and you're going to be playing a game, and then people are trying to understand the basic rules about the game, and then it's like by the time you get it figured out, it's like, oh wow, how did you do that? But it's like thinking about it is to where, yeah, that so that's just the thing that yeah, if you're going to be playing any kind of game, especially maybe in the arcades or something, especially like maybe at Chuck E. Cheese's, is that you're going to be putting a token in the machine, and then thinking that kids are going to play the game a number of times until they can figure out and get it right, and then they start, they are able to win some prizes off of it. But still, that's just a thing about it. Like the Goodies Prize in 1990 is that this is like what you call maybe one of my favorite moments is to where that if I hit the pinata hard enough to the point to where that I where I'm able to what you call it's able to get the game figure, help others who are watching, help them understand a little bit about purpose about the game, especially like the activity to where you open up the pinata and then all the kids are going to be running over and trying to get some candy or so. So that's just a thing that about that any activities like that. But anyway, but they talk about for the Goodies Prize, 1990. It's like Manny Make 25. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Salvage Joke 3, and it talks about right here is like for cars on the highway right here. You have right here is an example right here of a car on a highway, and you see right here is that I went ahead and drew an example right here, like this car right here. Talk about that just right down the street. But you see right here is I went ahead and drew right here is like a gentleman that I know that wants to tear up an old car, and this right here would be a look that he would have is like to where that yeah that have that look on your face like you about ready to say I got my toolkit, be ready for the whenever it comes around it's like on the street. But on your hand that this right here would be right here is like a scene right here is to where on the using my Photoshop work right here, I talk about right here is like if this was right here was the car right here, and if anybody were warned to where that the car would be driving on the highway right here. You have right here as an example right here of a biker, and you have right here is a pickup truck, and then you have right here is another type of truck on the highway. But on your hand, that I talk about is like the story about it's like there's something about the just I don't like well there's something about the that you don't like yeah there's something about the that I don't like well Oh, like, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the weather, man. I'm talking about the just right down the street. Like, well, I think I know by now about the one that produces that big cloud of of dust and fog, or just like, and you're like, I'm talking about the just right down the street. If you know, it's like on that street right there. Like, and yeah. And I think you may mention it before, is the one that sounds like a dumpster that's trying to catch its tire, right? The dumpster that's trying to catch its tire. Like, well, I don't think that all dumpsters have tires, but if you want to talk about the that you're talking about, but on your hand that you see right here is this right here, the view example right here of a highway. So I know, like with anybody, that for any cars, especially the old ones, the old and like what if I wanted to her, hey, that you'll wonder about what does it look like, especially on the highway, especially on the GPS. And we're like wanting to where I have right here is an example right here of this old car right here, and you're like wanting to her that with the old car, that knowing about, it's like, besides asking about the information from the policeman, if it was the cop that you pulled them over, like wanting to her, how you aware about how fast you were going, about the well, guess what? I'm like, oh, listen, officer, I'm just trying to drive to work, okay? But and knowing about the number of traffic lights. But you see right here is this right here is example right here of the car if it would be driving on the highway. And anybody wondering to where yeah, what exactly does it look like whenever it's on the highway? And anybody like wondering to where that this right here will be example right here of the car right here, and as well as right here and talk about with the biker. The biker would be pulling up and it's like, excuse me, beep, beep, do you need a hand? Oh, I'm driving to work. And like, well, beep, beep, like, hey, I'm like wondering, I'm like, you driving like you got a flat tire. Like, I'm just, and anybody will warn to her, like, yeah, you just, yeah, I'm driving to work. And like, well, hey man, I drive a pickup truck, and I want to let you know that like this truck, and I use it the hallway for wherever I'm going. But on your hand, that I'm like, I came across your car 4 times within this last week, and I'm like, wondering, is this just the way it drives? Yeah, is the way it drives. Like, well, it don't really sound like it's running. It sounds like it's rolling. Well, like talk about right here of like you between the rocking and the rolling. So it's rolling thunder. Blah, 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 blah. Like, well, I like, listen, I'm gonna drive the car and I'm gonna drive it home with me, all right? Like, oh, you're gonna drive the home with you? Well, yeah, like, yeah. I'm gonna turn the ignition, like, and then bang, 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 and then I'm gonna drive it home with me, all right? But you have right here. This right here will be example right here of the car right here, and if anybody warns to where this right here will be what the what the exhaust will look like. So anybody that may warn to where while you're driving, they're like, man, I can't see. I'm like, what's it? It's the just right up the street right there. I can the I the just right up the street. All right. Yeah, you see that big cloud right there? It's like carbon monoxide or whatever that is supposed to be right there. But you're like have right here is like that it may be hard to tell from in the car, but whenever you get out of the car, you'll be able to hear it. It sounds like bah, 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 bah. And then you'll be able to see it going about 25 mile an hour at the most. You have right here's the biker, and as well as the other car like on the highway. All the other cars are going between maybe 50 and 60 mile an hour. Whenever you see the car only going about 20, and it's like everybody say, excuse me, sir, beep, beep, you need a hand? I'm alright. I know. If anybody wanted to work, I'm like, really, that right here, between the dumpster trying to catch its wheel or anything like that, like, and I know if a tire could talk, we like wanted to like, give me some patches, But knowing about like, if anybody wanted to, what it sounded like knowing about between the cars, and more likely they get old enough to where the engine farts, the engine starts falling, engine parts start falling from the bottom, and you're like wanting to her, excuse me, sir, beep, do you need a hand? uh, I'm alright. I thought rolling thunder. Bah, 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 bah. But on your hand, I talk right here is right here, top of for salvage joke is knowing about that this gentleman right here is like between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Bah, 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 bah. Like, well, if you're gonna be driving to work, especially you got the just right down the street, you're like warrant to where, yeah, about how many times? The third time, it's 3 a.m. Like, uh, like, well, I tell you one thing. There's something about the alarm clock. Well, I'm afraid that's not the alarm clock this time. That's the just right down the street. Like, well, I got my toolkit. I got my toolkit. I'm gonna ask that guy. Like, how much do you want for that car? Like, well, it's a classic. Yeah, well, yeah, there's something about the that you want, such and such. Well, I tell you one thing, okay? It's not for sale. So you're like, well, listen, you gotta do something about the because I'm about to do something about because I always say like, well, there's something about the car that I don't like. Okay, you ask the people on the highway. Well, the people on the highway, of course, they got another that they're having to deal with. Yeah, well, I don't think that there's too many of them that have to deal with the as much as you like it. But on your hand, they talk about right here is talk about, say, for salvage joke, and you're like warning to her about it's like for any clunkers that more likely they could be on the highway, and like we're knowing about, I'm like really that out of those clunkers that they could be hauling something, and you're like warning to her, this right here looks like a clunker right here. And you're like one or two, yeah, but it don't sound like it sounds like like one. Well, I tell you one thing, between the sound of a lawnmower going down the road or anything like that, but you're like, well, yeah, well, you ought to know about if there's any toll roads or any tractors or anything like that that could be on the highway, and you're like one or two, between 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You're like one to her. What kind of vehicles that sound like do you think that would be on the highway? Like, well, I tell you one thing that I don't. I can maybe think of maybe a couple of them. Like if you've gone out of state, I can do something about the car. Why don't you? Because there's going to be somebody that's going to mention about it. It's like do something about it, or that there's going to be a ticket. But on the other hand, that you see right here is this right here is an example right here of a highway, and I know like with anybody that they're like one or two, if you're going to be driving a noisy car that may more likely that could be distracting the neighbors, yeah, like try to think about it. So I have right here is the biker. The biker is going to maybe pull up like beam 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 like excuse me sir, you need a hand. Oh, I think I got it all right. But on your hand, that knowing about right here, it's like there's something about the that I don't like. Like, well, there's something about the that you don't like. Well, that's just too bad, ain't it? Like, well, it sounds like the wheel is trying to catch. The wheel is trying to catch the brake or whichever you call it, or it's like the dumpster. The dumpster is trying to catch his tire. The dumpster is trying to catch the wheel, and I'm like, yeah. Like one or what does it sound like whenever you turn the ignition? This is what it sounds like right here. It doesn't sound like. It sounds like. And I'm like, well, there's something about the car. There's something about the that I don't like. Like, well, I don't know if it comes to the point where it starts falling apart, it's like it's not really what you call it's like maybe scrap metal, is it? Like a scratch metal, that's just what you call held together. But they're like wanting to the bikers, the bike that makes a lot of noise too. But yeah, well, I tell you one thing. Name one thing on the highway that was that don't go less than 30 mile an hour, that ain't so noisy, especially. But if anybody are wanting to, yeah, between the pickup truck and maybe a minivan, and you're like wanting to, excuse me, sir, you need a hand. Oh, I think I'm all right. Like wanting to where that, yeah, excuse me, sir, for wherever you're going, how long does it take for you to get there? Oh well, I tell you one thing, okay. But by the time I leave home, I would probably say it'll probably be around lunch hour or dinner hour by the time I actually get there round trip. I can, man, dude, when are you going to? Oh, okay, never mind. You need to do something about the car, okay? Because, I had to be somewhere at a certain time, and I don't think everybody wants to slow down just because they're around a slow, like, well, you can go and go around if you want. Oh, you talk about that with the, or with the, with the what? Like, with the, or the, or with the, but on the other hand, I talk about right here, like one to between the noisy birds or the thunderbirds or the well, on the other hand, I talk about right here is like say that you have it here, the highway right here. Anybody like want to, there's something about that car that I'm gonna take care of it. I want that car. I want that car. I can, is it that car again? Like, well, fortunately, oh, is that the water heater again? Do I have to go? No, that's the car. I want that car. I want that car. I can, like I say, well, why don't you just park that darn thing and leave it in park? Well, I'm on the highway, sir. But talk about it, see, like, yeah, between the dumpster that's trying to catch his tire, and you're like, well, to where, yeah, the dumpster that's trying to catch his wheel, huh? But I'm like, well, tell you one thing about the wheel, huh? The wheel that he's like held together. Know about you like one to where, what do you call it whenever the wheel that don't roll, huh? Talk about the tire right here. You're driving the car, you're driving the like it's got a flat tire, all right, like an and you're like Warren Tour, I tell you one thing, okay, sir, you need to try to do something about the car. Excuse me, sir, do you need a hand? Well, I'm not on a flat tire, and I think, well, why don't you do something about the car, okay? Why don't you trade in I'm not trading, okay? I'm not trading in for something else, okay? I'm gonna continue to drive the car. Well, listen, okay? I'm gonna tell you something, okay? That there's nothing wrong with my bike, but there's something wrong with my. Now you can just but so anybody like wanting to, well, for wherever you need to go, if it's the airport or anywhere like that, keep driving the car until the engine starts, parts just start going out, whichever it is, but you're like wanting to where really? I'm like, what does it look like on the highway? And you're like wanting to where people say like, boom. I say boom, boom, like in so far as Rolling Thunder, ba 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 ba, or boom, ba 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 ba. You're like wanting to where I'm like, there's something about that car that I'm gonna take care of it. Okay. Well, good luck, Rolling Thunder. Blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, to talk right here, it's talking about, excuse me, sir, do you need a hand? Rolling Thunder. Blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, to talk right here, I talk about for Salvage Joke 3, and I say you have right here with the car right here, and with the truck. It's like talking about, I said, we were like, whoa, watch out! Like you coming up to the just right up ahead. Excuse me, sir, do you need a hand? Oh no, I'm fine. Oh well, you're like, Rolling Thunder. Bah, 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 bah. Like when the don't even sound like it's running. Okay, it sounds like bah, 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 bah. Okay, you need to do something about it. Hey man, excuse me, sir. Do you need a hand? Oh, I think I got it. Because the car sounds like a tire is trying to catch it's like they trying to catch the brake, or it's like do you have the parking brake set? Bah, 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 bah. No, I don't. Bah, 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 bah. But on the other hand, I talk about here, say for highways, knowing about anybody one or two. Excuse me, sir, do you need a hand? Or excuse me, ma'am, do you need a hand? I can talk about see if I can. I want that car. I want that car. I can bah, 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 bah. Park that darn thing. Bah, 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 bah. I think I told you to park. Like, oh well, actually, I'm just gonna get home with it. Rolling Thunder. Bah, 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 bah. I go, why don't you just park that darn thing and leave it in park? Bah, 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 bah. I go, well, it's in park now. Like, then all of a sudden, 2 hours later, bang, 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 bang. Like, where there's something about the salvage car. There's something about the salvage that I don't like. You know, if I say, yeah, between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, huh? You know, I got my toolkit now, knowing about it. There's something about that car that I'm going to try to take care of it. I go, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm going to remind that guy to say, like, you know, I'm going to tell him to turn the car off, or I'm going to turn, like, wanted to, now, but, anyway, but there's something about the that I don't like. There's something about the that you don't like. Yeah, Rolling Thunder. Bah, 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 bah. I saw there's something about the I like one to where, yeah, the noisiest the noisiest troublemakers around the neighborhood, and you're like one to where it may not be the water heater or the alarm clock, but it's gonna be the just right down the street, huh? So it's like, well, like, excuse me, sir, do you need a hand? Like, one tour. Well, you know, if there was a toll road right here, you're like, well, excuse me, sir, do you need a hand? Bah. Well, you know, I just say I just need to get through so I can get to work, okay? Bah. Or wherever I'm going. Bah. Or like, one tour. There's something about the car that I'm wondering toward. You know, how is it staying together? I'm like, what is it running on? Bang, 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 bang. But on the other hand, to talk about here is talk about for salvage joke. May make 25, and thanks for watching. Have a great